Okay, it may be November the 10th, but it is 72 degrees here in northern Michigan. I'm not mistaking that. 72 degrees, November the 10th. Sometimes we'd have snow by now, but I think it's time to walk the trail. Next time we'll probably be on snowshoes. We go up here past the little shop. Head out on the trail that the amazing Matthew Netto has carved for us. See, it sort of looks like winter because there's no leaves on deciduous trees, but again, it's 72 degrees. Okay, here's the trail. The leaves have stayed off of it. That's good. We blew them off, I guess, last week. Probably no more coming down. That's really what the problem is. There's a tree that fell down last winter, went right across the trail, but Matthew cleaned it up. And some junk we should throw away. Uh-oh, we are trapped. This may take... Oh, that's a really interesting way to snap off a tree. Huh. Can I move this by myself? I guess so. Because it's dead. This is a very pleasant little trail. And any of you who are watching this still are welcome to come and walk it, or snowshoe it, or ride your bike on it, or I don't know, what else can you do? We do have a lot of stuff fell down from the wind the other night. Wow. This is the advantage of having 20 acres. You can do stuff like this. See the blazes? If you're Bob Solon, you can't see those because he thinks they're the same color as the tree. But I'm not colorblind, so I can see them. Now you get to about here, and basically you're out in the middle of the woods. You can't see anybody, anything, or anyone, or a bear might come and attack you. I don't think so. nice soft trail. It's years of dead wood and leaves have made a sort of a peat bog. It's not a bog exactly, but it's very soft to walk on. Here's one of our features. Birch tree. Made it into an arch. And now we have arrived at a seemingly confusing place. You see the blazes point both directions. That's because this is a little circle. And I think, given the results of the elections here in Michigan on Tuesday, I'm going to go to the left. We had a really amazing kind of results from the election. Gretchen Whitmer reelected by double digits. The Washington Post is already calling her a favorite for the presidential election in 2 years. I'd hate to lose her. Our Attorney General and Secretary of State, also both Democrats, also both women, reelected handily. The proposals all passed handily. There's one to require politicians to make financial disclosures. We were like the last state in the union to insist on that, so we're now doing that. That's good. It also gives them slightly longer, I think they can do 12 years now, term limits, either House or Senate. What we were finding is that with the really, really short term limits, nuts like Lee Chatfield, he was actually our state rep, became the Speaker of the House because nobody had seniority. He's the guy who got detained by the TSA at Pelston Airport for having a loaded firearm in his carry-on luggage. And he'd just come from his child's birthday party. Michigan doesn't have a safe, what do you call it, a gun safe law or anything like that yet. But we have an ever so slight Democratic majority in both houses of the legislature for the first time in something like 40 years. This is the result of our redistricting process that for the first time in 40 years was not all gerrymandered. Boy, did that tree just fall down? I think it did. Wow. And we also passed Proposal 2, which was about voting, mandating ballot box drop-offs, early voting, no excuse needed, absentee voting, really sensible things. I would think at some point they really should switch to all mail-in voting like Oregon does. It seems crazy to have a polling place in every little township all over the place. But the other good news about this election was here in Redmond Township, we have about 600 registered voters. And in the presidential election year, that's when the big turnouts generally happen. The Secretary of State people or the Emmett County election people, whoever they are, they think that if they get about half, that's pretty good. Well, and every time we voted before, I think once we saw another person there. Usually it's like 4 election workers and nobody there. So they're very friendly and nice. But this time there were 5 or 6 other people there voting at the same time. And at 1 o'clock, the clerk shared with us that more than 300 people had already voted. So they already met their quota for a presidential election, presumably even higher. I didn't check the figures yet, but It's good news when people vote in a democracy. So what else happened? We re-elected Jack Bergman, our U.S. congressman, which isn't too bad because he's completely ineffective. He has served now 6 years in the Congress and never so much as sponsored a bill that was signed into law. I mean, other than one that names a post office or something stupid like that, the courtesy resolutions. So he's basically is the Barney Frank of the right. He votes against everything out of principle. Well, this is kind of fun. This is the new part of the trail, and it's got bumps in it. So 2 more years of Jack Bergman, who, according to some people, owns a unheated cabin in the Upper Peninsula, but doesn't actually live here in the district, which of course is quite illegal, but nobody cares. They just say, oh no, Jack, he was Lieutenant General. Maybe I should take this down. This is kind of cool. I'm already on to, 11 minutes. Running out of things to say, which is very atypical of me. There's a green tag over there. I think Matthew deviated from our proposed plan, and that's quite all right. Now back to our path. This is much more interesting back here. It has some little ups and downs. Uh-oh. This one's pants fell down. Oh, several of them. My goodness, there's a lot of trees. I wonder why 2 colors. Can you please explain, Jamie McKenzie? The blazes are pink back here. That's another story for another time. The red spray paint exploded. Oh, this one didn't like its manacles. 15 minutes. Gentle walk. Not even at the end yet. Who's gonna watch this? Nobody. Or somebody who's really bored. I hope nobody's hunting back here now that I've wandered all the way back here in a dark blue shirt. Because it is deer season. Bow hunting, though. I don't think there's much chance I'll be shot. My goodness, there's a lot of tape out here. Ooh, that's a fun little feature. Oh, and the third proposal on the ballot, which is probably a lot of why there was such a big turnout, was a proposal. All three of these proposals amended the Constitution, which apparently you can do by popular vote in Michigan. I'm not sure that's a wise thing, but certainly better than requiring 2/3 of the Senate and the House and then 3/4 of the states. Because that's a little too much. Anyway, the third proposal was to enshrine reproductive freedom into the Constitution. And a very sensibly worded thing, allowing the legislature to promulgate regulations about it. But it basically says, it basically enshrines Roe versus Wade. Up until the time of fetal viability, a woman can do whatever she wishes with her body. And even after that point, if there's something that's threatening to her or the child, there can be an abortion still. And I know that some people are really happy about this. Okay, here we come to the, oh, that's somebody's got a deer blind up there. Oh, eek. See that? That's weird. Wonder if that's on our property. Anyway, we come out here to the utility cut for the electrical and now our fancy true stream internet, which we never used to have. And the Great Lakes Energy, the local cooperative, has a right of way here. Maybe that's RJ. Could he have done something that fancy? Wow. RJ was our contractor and still a friend. Caitlin, his wife, and he rent their old house to Jamie's brother Rob, and Caitlin works for our financial advisor, Tim Knapp. That's quite the, it does say Kloss, doesn't it? Wow. RJ, that's just A number one. Cool. Well, he's not here. So anyway, this heads back. And we were talking about abortion, yes. I don't know where, some pope, was it J2P2, said that life begins at conception. Therefore, that an abortion is murder. I don't know that I buy this theologically or scientifically, because, you know, a human baby, even when born, can't survive on its own. But that's another issue. We seem to understand what birth is. I would think anything up until birth is, the Jewish people, I think, consider that, their midrash, they consider that it's part of the mother's body until the child comes out. But biblically, my take on it is that it's very clear that life begins with breath. And that's how the whole universe began, biblically. That God spake and the world came into being, the universe came into being. But, I don't know, some people seem to think they know better, and they're protecting innocent. I don't know. I just can't follow the argument. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And what doesn't make the most sense to me, what makes the least sense to me, is that the people who are most opposed, that's corn for feeding the deer, I guess. It's a long way from there. Wow. Most of the people who are opposed to the idea of women's autonomy are conservative types who, in any other circumstance, resent the government intrusion into private lives. So it just doesn't, none of it makes any sense. And I just thought, there's apples here. I guess we really are feeding the deer. That's good. The fewer deer there are, the better the world will be. Anyway, that's what we did in Michigan. That woman from Michigan is re-elected governor, and the Washington Post says she's a contender for the presidential election. Pete Buttigieg now lives in Michigan. Chaston, his husband, grew up in Traverse City, and they moved here, I think, to be near Chaston's parents, so they'd have built-in babysitters. But it may also mean that Pete would consider running for governor here in 4 years. He is currently the Secretary of Transportation. We met them just before the election with the 3 local Democratic candidates, all 3 of whom were not elected. But it was really great to meet him and hear him speak. It just totally makes sense the way so many politicians don't. And it seems that nationally, control of the Senate is going to wait for the runoff election in Georgia that they have to do again. It's like 2 years ago. That's and I got to tell you that the Republican candidate is, in my mind, is proof that there is a concussion injury that comes to football players, because he doesn't make any sense. But still people vote for him, saying he's a Republican and therefore he'll vote with the Republicans. He doesn't seem to have any policies or principles, or I don't know whether he would obey Mitch McConnell or what, but I would really worry about having him in the United States Senate. So it's our little walk through nature and political musings for 24 minutes so far. Our neighbor to the north has put up all kinds of, can you just see it? Little fluorescent do not trespass signs. I don't know why he thinks we're going to trespass on his land, but the last bunch, I don't know if there's a stake. His property was sold from ours some years ago, and so there's surveyor's stakes. Oh, there is one. And again, every time I come out here, I see the surveyor's stake, and I see the tree that's clearly on our side of the line, and I'm taking it down. I don't really want people to hunt or fish without permission, but I just don't want to look at those horrible signs. can't really tell where the next stake is, so I have to leave a few of these. I suspect he won't be happy about that, but you know, it's not hard when there are always, you can tell where the property line is to keep stuff on your side of it. Luckily, his wife, Melanie, is just delightful. She has only recently moved here from Germany to marry him, and came here. See, that one's on his side. I can see it. There's the stake and there's the sign, so that's, can't do nothing about that. Anyway, she's a nurse and has Michigan credentials to be a nurse, but still doesn't have a green card, so she can't work. And she's dying to work because she, wants to be useful. It'll come, I suppose. Okay, we're back here at the junction of the utility right-of-way. The main power for all kinds of people goes to our right. It goes up to Dave and Sarah Kuckelman's cottage. And I think I found another one on our property. Yep. Sure enough. And this last 3 poles is the power and more recently the internet just for us and the neighbors to the south, the Scots. They are lovely people. And they don't even care that some of our trail may have meandered onto their property. We're not really sure. The other side may have been sold, I think it was sold first because they've been here 20 something years, excuse me, but it doesn't seem to have the same number of really obvious surveyor stakes the way this side does. What a beautiful sunny day. I should make it clear, I'm out here in my Dr. Bob t-shirt because it's so warm. Dr. Bob, of course, was not elected to the U.S. Congress, but should have been. He actually did a really good job of campaigning, I think, meeting people locally, trying to be realistic. When we went to one gathering in Charlevoix, and people there wanted to get his opposition stirred up to a development that's happening on Lake Charlevoix, and he was very sensible about it. He said, if I'm your United States representative, I really don't have any business meddling in what are essentially local affairs. I can tell you that I feel for you, but there's nothing in federal law that permits me to get involved in what is basically a zoning decision in Charlevoix. So maybe he made some enemies that way, I don't know. But he had our votes. Now we're back to where the trail begins. Right there. And there's the cottage. I think it's time to go in and make myself a cup of tea.